Hey, welcome back to more Reddit asks. And these are questions that realtors or say real estate agents are asking in the realtor Reddit. And just want to give some of my thoughts, and hopefully these will help you as you maneuver through all the different things that the real estate career offers. And so today we've got two kind of opposite ends of the same spectrum questions. And both of these are from this last week. And so the first one, is it realistic to work in real estate only during the summer while I'm in college? If I'm busy during the school year, but I get licensed before summer starts, would it be realistic or possible to work as a realtor only during the summer months and then pause during the school year? Would it be possible to return to it each summer? And would wanting to pursue real estate long term or not influence the decision? There's a lot going on here. And there's a related question that I'll probably make a separate video on about being part-time. Can you be a part-time real estate agent? And that's kind of what they're asking. They're kind of asking seasonal. Can I be a seasonal real estate agent? And the short answer is kind of. Obviously, you could have your license and pay the dues, and you could be a real estate agent. Would you be able to get sales during the summer months between semesters of college? Is it possible? Yes. Could you really do that every year? Let's say all 4 years of college, or 3 years. Let's say you don't do it before your freshman year, but you do it before every other year. The issue is, in real estate, what you do today is your business 90 to 180 days from now. And so if you're concerned about having all this work in school and your classwork, just all that time, and you just want to start May 28th and expect to have sales in June and July and August, and then go back to school at the end of August, I really don't see that happening. I think that's a very unrealistic expectation. Is it possible that your friends, parents of friends, or someone you know contacts you in May and says, hey, I'm thinking about buying a house. You got your real estate license, right? Yes, I do. Well, hey, when you get done with classes, let's go look at houses. Okay, cool. And you could get a sale or two. That's certainly a possibility. It's just not really probable. And so whether or not you want to pursue real estate long term doesn't really influence that decision. If you're only wanting to do work May, June, July, or June, July, August, like, that's just not going to work, because in order to have closings in July, you pretty much need to be doing work back in April, and you're lead generating, and there's a lot that goes into building a business. There's a lot that goes into getting consistency, but also you need to know what you're doing. You got to take time to learn. There's training classes that your office should provide, or your firm should provide. And there's just the fact of being out, going out and previewing homes, being out with other agents, talking to mortgage lenders, talking to title officers. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it, especially in the beginning stages, where you need to be learning these things so that you can actually be of value to your clients. So that's question number one. And that's on the one side of the spectrum here. On the other side of the spectrum, when does it make sense to start a team or to get a transaction coordinator? They have TA, but I think they made a transaction coordinator, or maybe an administrative assistant. I do about 20 to 30 transactions a year and can handle it, but I don't want to be working 24/7 anymore. Most of my business comes from past clients and people who live in my community. So I haven't relied much on marketing, and I've been comfortable in that range of 20 to 30 sales. I'm very hands-on and have become a bit of a friend agent, which I value, but I'm starting to feel burnt out. Right there, there's something I want to address with that 20 to 30 transactions a year and feeling burnt out and working 24/7. But let me finish the rest of his or rest of their question. I know many agents scale to 100 plus deals, but that's not my goal. I'm happy selling fewer homes if it means great service and life outside of work. I can see the potential to generate more leads, though. I can see the potential to generate more leads, though, and I'm trying to figure out how to protect my time while still leaving room to grow. That's why I'm exporting having a small 2 to 3 person team. I don't know why I said exporting. Exploring having a small 2 to 3 person team so I can pass leads along. I'm wondering if it makes sense to start a small team, hire a transaction coordinator, or both. Curious to hear insight or experience, especially around average cost and what to look out for when going this route. All right. So, first, I do about 20 to 30 transactions a year and can handle it, but I don't want to be working 24/7 anymore. So, what he's saying is he's working a lot to get the 24 to 30 or 20 to 30 transactions a year. Um, when I was right around 20 transactions a year, I mean, it was a good year, but I didn't feel like I was working 24 hours at 24/7. Did I answer some questions and write up an offer while I was on a youth retreat? I was a volunteer youth leader at my church. We were on a retreat in Oregon while I was in Washington. And did I get a phone call that said, "Hey, buyer backed out. Do you guys want in?" Yes, yes, we do. Right? Yes, I did. I did work, but for me personally, taking 15 minutes there for a phone call and talking to them and letting them know, yes, yes, we do want this, and I'll get an offer over to you as soon as I can. But here's my situation. Here's where I'm at. I don't even know that that particular situation was a little while ago. I can't remember if I wrote up an offer there with my laptop with me all the time. But even then, it's like taking half an hour to take a phone call and write up an offer. That's not a big deal to me. I know my offers. I know these. I know how everything works. I know how to get all that stuff done. And once I do it on my computer, client signs it. I can forward that on from my phone to the listing agent, right? And so I didn't feel burned out doing that. I didn't feel like I was working 7 days a week. I can tell you, I wasn't working 7 days a week, um, and um, and so um, that's why I'd like to ask this person more questions to find out what their general practice is, because maybe they're doing way too much, or they're not converting enough. Maybe if they work on conversion, they'll get more sales. If they work on conversion, they can actually do less and have the same business, right? So that's one aspect. And so now, again, from my experience, I think going above 30 sales, you do need to have somebody, an admin, doing marketing, putting together, um, mailers, all that kind of stuff. You need someone to do that kind of work because that will free you up to do more. So he's talking about agents that scale to 100 plus deals, but that's not my goal. And that's never been my personal goal either. I think there's a lot of different types of real estate agents. You have the ones where it's just a second income. They're totally fine doing 4 or 5, 6 deals a year. No big deal. And that's partly why, was it, so last year, 2025 or 2024, something like 70% of agents in America didn't close a sale. 70% did not close a sale, or they only closed one. I can't remember. Um, so, not everybody has that goal to do 100 plus. A lot of people just want the freedom that real estate gives in terms of, you don't need to ask for vacation time. You don't need to ask for sick time. You don't need to ask to get off early to go to your kid's sports game or whatever. You can go to Europe for a month like I did, and you got a little bit of work you got to do while you're there. Okay, right? So what? No big deal. Other people, they want to scale. They want to do 100 deals a year. They want to do 200 deals a year. They want this business. And and so he says something here as if it's contradictory. I'm happy selling fewer homes if it means great service and a life outside of work. Okay. Now, what he is, or this person is assuming, is that by doing 100 plus deals a year, you are not giving good service and you don't have a life outside of work. And that's where I've got to beg to differ. No, I have not done 100 sales a year. Okay, I'm just going to put that out there. But I know one guy in particular that was at my office back in 2010. Well, I got there in 2010. He'd already been there a few years, but I want to say 2010, he was somewhere between 20 and 30 sales. And I was at a Keller Williams office. And for those who don't know Keller Williams, Gary Keller started Keller Williams a long while back. And one of the big things that he promoted, or he wrote a book called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And in it, they interviewed, I want to say he interviewed 100 agents. Now, I read two books that were around the same time. There's another one called The Millionaire Next Door. And one of them interviewed like 70 people. One of them interviewed like 100. I can't remember which one was which, but it's still a lot. That's a big number of people. So in Gary Keller's book, he interviewed these agents that had net for themselves $1 million in commission. Okay, that's not revenue before expenses and everything else. That's the net they put in their pocket at the end of the year. So he interviewed them, and he tried to find out what are the commonalities. What are all these agents doing the same? What are all the things that they're avoiding? Right? What is the formula? And then he wrote Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And so if you're wanting to scale, read this book. Okay, this particular other agent that I know, he basically in 2010 he said, "I'm going to follow the model. I'm going to follow the model that's in the MREA book." And the first, except one thing he did different. He hired a buyer's agent first, and in the model, you hire an administrator first. And I think that's because he found a good buyer's agent first, and so he brought them on, but then he hired an admin right after that. And now if you recall, 2010, the market was still going down. 2008 started to drop, 2010 still going down. Where we were at in the Puget Sound area, 2012 was the bottom of the market. Spring of 2013 is when things really started to turn. And this is how I know for a fact the market does not dictate your ability to help buyers and sellers buy and sell homes. 2010, he did around 30 sales, 20, 30 sales, I believe. And he more than doubled that. If I recall correctly, it was like 65 sales that he did in 2011 with his buyer's agent. So his buyer's agent, together, they did 65 sales. When you hire a buyer's agent, though, typically you are taking 50% of that commission. That's kind of the going rate. Sometimes it's more, sometimes a little less, but typically you're taking 50%, and then part of that 50%, some of that is going back into your own marketing, things like that. So maybe you take 25%. But if you said it was split evenly, so he had all the listings and he did, let's say, 32 listings and he had 32 buyers, but he takes in his pocket 25% of these buyers, he put more money in his pocket by having a buyer's agent, right? And within a few years, I don't remember the exact time frame because this was a while ago now, but within a few years, maybe 3 years or something, 4 years, he had scaled up. I want to say he was over 200 transactions a year, 225, 230. He had a listing specialist. He had his buyer's agent specialist. He had a showing assistant. He had his admin. He might have even had a marketing person. So the admin was only doing transactional things. And then marketing person was doing something else. I'm trying to remember exactly, but I know he was doing over from 2010 to 2015 within 5 years. I'm sure it was. He went from 30 transactions to 250. give or take. Okay. And he's still today doing a bunch. The same, he has the same buyer's agent. I'm friends with him on Facebook. And so he's continued to churn out the same kind of business. And so you can have that good service. And I should say that the life outside of work, both these people, the buyer's agent and him, both have a life outside of work. They're not working 70 hours a week. He's going to concert, posting on Facebook, going to concerts, going to wineries. He's doing stuff. And that's part of the MREA model, is that as you build and scale this, it's the business that people are working with, not you as an individual. So that's why the name of his company wasn't his name. It wasn't Joe Smith Realtors or Realty or whatever. He had a different name that was a unique, non-personalized name, which also later on, if he decides he doesn't want to be in the business anymore, he can sell that business and all of his contacts. He can sell that book of business to another agent who wants to take it over. And all those people could still stay working. The buyer's agent, all those people, there's some transitional things, right? But, and so in that model though, as you are hiring for these things, you are slowly getting out of the day-to-day operations. So you actually are getting more and more time to then invest into other businesses. And the ultimate goal is when you're at the 7th level of this business, so you hire an admin, you hire a buyer's agent, and then the 3rd level is hiring, I think, a listing specialist or maybe a showing assistant. And then, so eventually you have this team, and you function as the CEO of the team. And it's a model. People have followed it. People are following it. If you want to scale, there is a model for you to follow such that you have a life and you can move out of that. Does it take hard work? Yes. At one point I asked him what he was doing and for lead generating and stuff. And I think he was a little bit of a natural networker, but he was meeting with people 3 days a week. People from his sphere, people from past clients, other vendors. And he was just constantly meeting with people and talking with people and stuff. And we can get into lead generating another time. But so, to finish up in this question, I'm wondering if it makes sense to start a small team, hire a transaction coordinator, or both. So again, this depends on what your real goal is. Do you have a financial goal? So he says 20 to 30 sales. I just saw someone else post on a different question. They did 20 sales last year, zero new clients. These were all sphere people they knew in their sphere, referrals, or past clients. They didn't do any new clients, right? But they did $30 million. I went, 20 sales, 30. They averaged $1.5 million a sale. Yeah, 30 million. Let's just say that you're going low and you're getting 2%. Okay, that's $600,000. And if you're at a commission split company where you have a cap, maybe you paid 15,000, and maybe other business expenses, yada yada yada. Let's say you're all in at $30,000 for your expenses, right? So out of 600,000, you get $570,000. Most agents are going to be pretty okay with that, right? And so does that person want to scale to doing 100 sales a year? I don't know. Do you? If you're doing 30 transactions a year and your average sales price is $200,000, maybe you have a different kind of scaling that you want to do. You want to scale your price point, not the number, right? And so with this particular person, there's a variety of things that they could do. Number one, they can look at their business and look at how many are listings, how many are buyers. Statistically, and I think logically, buyers take more time than sellers. So he can start looking at it and go, well, out of 30 sales, I'm doing 12 listings and I've got 18 buyers. Okay, well, maybe you refer some of those buyers and figure out how you're getting those listings and spend more time getting those listings. Because if you take the 12 and the 18 and you refer out 6 of those buyers, and referring out those buyers allows you to get 4 more listings. Okay. You've dropped in overall volume from 30 down to 28, but those 6 buyers that you referred, you're getting a 25% referral fee on all those buyers, right? Or maybe 30, maybe 20, whatever you work out. 25 is pretty normal. So 25% referral fee on 6 buyers, that's like 1.5 sales. So now all of a sudden you're at 29.5 sales. Okay. If you're looking at 100% of your normal commission, whatever it is, but you were able to pick up 4 new sellers and had 6 less buyers that you were working with, which means more time, right? So there's ways to scale this, to change things around, to give yourself more time and, maybe feel a little less burned out while still doing kind of the same volume in some ways. The other thing, and then you can keep working that to where maybe all you do is listings. Maybe you're doing 20 to 25 listings a year and all your buyers are referring out. If you have move up buyers or move down buyers, people are staying in town, you hire a buyer's agent and they simply work with your buyers when they're, and you work with the seller or the seller side. So you're helping them get them sold. This one's taking them around, looking at houses, whatever. The transaction coordinator, my experience has been, so my company gives us free transaction coordinators, but really all they are doing, they're doing the easy stuff for free. So I can send them my purchase and sale documents, all the stuff, and they'll get it all uploaded where it needs to go for compliance purposes. They'll open title. They'll call title company if I want them to. But again, that's a 30-second email for me. That's not a big deal. What I would love is someone to write up the contract for me. But the problem with that is I'm typically on the phone with my client. Okay, well, how much earnest money do you want to put down? I think you should put down this much. Da, da, da. We're having this conversation about earnest money, and I'm talking to the lender about when we can close, and I'm finding out some of this different information to fill out the purchase and sale agreement. Now, I could probably do things a little differently, and then have a transaction coordinator, get done looking at a property. Hey, we want to write up an offer on this property. Please have this ready. Everything except for price. I'm going to talk with them about price later. They could have it all done or something. But that's the kind of stuff that I would prefer the transaction coordinator. So I'm not sure how many of them do that. The last that I checked, TCs would charge anywhere from $250 to $400 per transaction. And so you kind of have to figure out for yourself, how much time does that actually save you? Is that worth your time? For me, it doesn't. So, and then transaction coordinator, a small team. Yeah. So I think we'll kind of cover that. But if you're wanting to actually go big and you want to do 100 transactions a year, you want to be the literal top agent in your town or something like that, you need to follow a model. You need to follow the model that other people have followed. Now, part of that model is lead generating marketing. Okay. That can shift over time, right? 20 years ago, there was no Facebook to market on. There was no social media to be marketing on, except for MySpace. But there was none of that kind of stuff. Whereas now that stuff is pretty integral for a lot of people, right? So the lead generating part of it, like what you do for lead generating, can shift and change, but the model of how to do these things, or not how, but the implementation of these, having these pieces to your puzzle, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So look at what the model of what someone else has done. And these agents they weren't all in one state. They were all over the country. And so it's the kind of model that will work all over the country. So to kind of recap here, if you're doing 20 to 30 transactions a year and you're feeling a little burned out, or you're thinking about a team, or you're wanting to scale or whatever, you got to decide, what do you want to scale to? Are you wanting to, like, long term, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where do you see yourself? Doing 100 transactions a year, 200 transactions a year, 300 a year? Is that what you want? You want to have a business with employees, with a team, 4 to 5, 6 employees, and you're going to scale that and do that? Or by scaling, do you simply mean you want to make another $100,000 this year? You want to do a little less with buyers and a little more with sellers? Do you want to try to have a little more time, a little more free time? Maybe not work 40 hours a week. You want to work 30 hours a week. Okay. Though that you need to answer that question before you can decide, okay, am I going to follow this MREA model, or am I just going to start maybe referring out some of these buyers and take a referral fee and focus on sellers to make more time, or, et cetera. So that's the whole other side. You have the want to be part-time and only work in the summer. And you have the, how do I scale this and do a whole lot more without using a whole lot more time? Kind of two opposite sides. I hope these have helped you. And if you ever have questions, feel free to comment, post your questions. Maybe I'll use them in the next video or something. Would love to chat. And if you are looking for a real estate company at all, check the links in the description. I got some great information on Epic Realty, which gives a lot of free things, including the transaction coordinator. So anyways, I appreciate you watching, and I wish you the best in your real estate endeavors. Have a great day.